Okay, good morning everybody, and welcome to the All About Offshore Wind Supply Chain Northeast Sector session. I'm Alan Whittaker, Programme Manager, Supply Chain Northeast, and I'm delighted to be the MC for this piece of the event, which is great because I'm pretty passionate about offshore wind and what's happening in and around the Northeast coast, because there's a lot of good stuff happening. I think it's great that there's a lot of good opportunities happening. There are a number of good programs, and we've got some great speakers lined up. Hopefully this session will give you an insight into the sector from 5 organisations which are closely involved in the sector. And we're going to start with Graham Wright of RWE, who will cover the Sophia offshore wind project, followed by Tom Nightingale of Equinor, who's going to cover the Dogger Bank offshore wind farm. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Graham Wright. I'm the supply chain manager for Sophia, working for RWE. And just to give firstly a little bit of an insight into myself, I've been working in the sector for 15 years. I've had 13 years working in the Northeast with MPI, which is Van Ord now, which is an installation contractor installing the foundations turbines. In the last 3 years, I've been working for Saipem down in London, which is an EPCI contractor that would obviously contract to companies like RWE and Equinor. And I just want to say on behalf of myself and also Tom, to be honest, it's a privilege to try and project what we're doing in offshore wind. So hopefully we can showcase that today. So just to give you a little bit of insight into Sophia, it's a 100% owned project by RWE, and following the sort of integration of energy renewables and Eon Climate Renewables, we're now one of the largest leading wind farm developers in the world. And just to show from a UK perspective, we've been having projects running, in operation since just after the millennium, running up until about 2018. We've got offshore wind farms being operational. I myself, got involved in Humber Gateway and Robin Rigg and London Array, just to name a few. London Array, just to give you a bit of insight into that powered the 2012 Olympic Games. And then the projects that are in construction, well, Triton Knoll, which is just on the Lincolnshire coastline, that's in the nearing its completion of construction. I think the turbines are either done or imminent. And obviously Sophia, you can see how far off it is from the Teesside coastline, and that's in the very much early stages of its construction. But you can certainly see that we really do cover the British Isles. So some key elements to Sophia as a wind farm. As I said, it's owned by RWE. It's sited on the Dogger Bank region, right next to Tom's projects for Equinor and SSE, which is Dogger Bank A, B and C. So we're within that same cluster. It's one of the largest single offshore wind farms in the world, and certainly one of the furthest away from shore, 195 kilometres off the northeast coastline. I think, the whole industry over the last 15 years has seen some great major, engineering and innovative feats. And that's culminating now where we've got wind farms coming online at the size of Sophia and Tom's at Dogger Bank, where we're just getting amazing sized, capacities, 1.4 gigawatt installed. It's going to be 100 turbines with a tip height of 252 meters. And it's enough energy to power 1.2 million homes just by itself on Sophia. The key UK benefits as we see them at RWE is that it's $3 billion investment into the UK's electricity infrastructure, the lowest ever strike price at £39.65 per megawatt hour, and chalking off more than 1.25 million tonnes of carbon each year. But I think, really importantly for these types of events, I think RWE see a very significant, economic opportunity for, the potential for supply chain benefits, direct and indirect jobs through contracts alike. To just give you a bit of a timeline of what's been, what's happening and what's going to happen. So in 2019, in September, we got our CFD, our contract for difference, with the government. Obviously, that £39 per 65 megawatt hour. In Q4 in 2020, we aligned ourselves with all the major, tier one contractors. A few months back, we managed to secure the investment of our FID, and that obviously kickstarted the onshore construction activities. In early 2023, we expect the offshore construction to start to materialize. And then the commissioning will be in 2025 with the first generation and a full, complete running project by 2026. So as you can imagine, same with Tom, we're going to have a real long lead into these projects where we're going to have a lot of dialogue. So, it's a real fantastic event really for the region. So who are the tier one contractors that are getting involved? Well, we've got Van Oord or MPI based in Stokesley, and they're covering, the lion's share of the foundation elements, the full EPCI, which is engineering, procurement, construction, installation of the foundations, which are going to be monopiles, and the full array cables. Siemens are going to be doing the supply and install of the WTGs, 14 megawatts, and we're fully hoping that the blades are going to be constructed in Hull. GE Semcor, GE based in Stafford, they're going to be supplying the install of the HVDC offshore converter platform and the onshore converter station as well. Our Italian Prismium contractor, and ladies and gents, let's hope that it's arrivederci, it's one-on-one on the weekend. Let's hope we win. And they're going to do the supply and install of the offshore and onshore export cable. And then Jones Brothers based in Wales, they're on site. I met the mayor, Ben Houchin, yesterday, where we were basically, and obviously the Dog Bank team there, executing the onshore converter station enabling works at the Wilton site. So a fantastic occasion there. Tom will go into a bit more detail on this, but this gives you, a bit of an overview of where the companies are involved, starting from the turbines, routing through the cables, to the platforms and then into the grid. So I don't want to steal his thunder on that. This is just something I've made up really that, as a sort of an indicative, I honestly think the tier system is so important when it comes to offshore wind. I think it's pivotal. You've got those real top engaged tier one contractors. But I think the most important thing in offshore wind for, say, UK content and local, direct engagement is getting the tier twos and tier threes and tier fours, depending on the scope of work, involved. I think that's where I really need to push on and ensure that this happens with our tier one contractors, and also having the right sort of workshops that get people engaged, and also a little bit having the right scopes of work that determine getting the right businesses, involved in the project. And that's something I really want to champion. So this is obviously the Siemens, to give you a bit more insight into what they're actually doing and what they're providing. So it's a 14 megawatt capacity state-of-the-art turbine. The blades are 108 meter blades cast in a single mold, which is outrageous, the length of the Riverside Stadium, or certainly the pitch. The diameter is 222 meter diameter, sweeping a 39,000 square meter area. So 220 meters, that's about the length of the longest yacht in the world. The 25-year design life and a 25% more powerful than the last turbine that they profiled in the industry. And Sophia will be the first project in the world to install them. Current status with Siemens is we placed our order, obviously straight after FID, as a full-blown contract. I'm not going to go into the sort of bullet points, but I think you can, see them there for yourselves. But there is a lot of contracting opportunities with Siemens, and we will be sort of bringing them on board at the right time. As you can imagine, the Siemens turbines don't get installed until 2025. So there's a long lead time in. The time frame for the procurement activity won't start till 2023 and 2024. So there'll be, say, transport, vessel, lifting and logistics, some site-related events, and also some further, goods and services coming on board. Definitely think probably next year we'll try and organise a proper meet the buyer, which hopefully should link in with that type of engagement of 2023 onwards. So onto the foundations and array cables as the EPCI scope for Van Oord. They're doing 100 foundations. The length is 80 to 90 meters, weighing either 1,200 or 1,400 tons, and that's depending on the water depth at each exacting location. There'll be 109 individual array cables totaling approximately 360 kilometers, and they'll be installed in 18 strings feeding into the offshore converter station. The vessels that are going to be profiled on this job, there's going to be a jackup, the Aeolus, which has got 1,600 ton lifting capacity for the foundations, and then the Nexus will be doing the cable installation. The current status is we placed our order again straight after FID, and there's a strong focus with that MPR offshore base at Stokesley, where we really want to build us a logistics hub, or certainly Vanord are going to be doing that in the northeast, and that will cover some of the main marine and logistical activities that they're responsible for. I've sort of broken out the sort of procurement opportunities between the early stages and then when it's really happening from an installation perspective, because it's a real, again, a long lead in for Vanord. So in 2021 and into 2022, it's more the sort of fabrication, relating to the foundations and the cables, concrete structures, secondary steel, cathodic protection, barges, marshalling, davit cranes. I really think that there's a strong amount of scope there that we've already seen it already with the Meet the Buyer events and the amount of passion that UK Northeast businesses have to want to engage with Vanord. Vanord obviously did their presentation a couple of days back, and I really am positive that a lot of these scopes can swing the UK way. And like I said, 2021 and 2022 for the procurement activity. So, companies will start to see these ITTs coming through. And so I definitely suggest that you reach out, try and get pre-qualified with Vanord for them. Then once it gets into the more installation phase, you can imagine that the procurement activity will be a lot more reflective against when the events are actually taking place on the installation perspective. But again, there's still sizable amount of support, transport, vessels, lifting and logistics, still some site-related events, and also some goods and support services. So I honestly think, Vanord have, a great opportunity to really harness what we have in the Northeast and also, the UK as a whole. And let's see what can happen. And I'll be there, pushing it along. So the HVDC platform package with GE and Semcor, I think this is really a sort of world-changing, development really to have a platform, that far offshore, the size that it is, 1,320 megawatt HVDC with a 320 kilovolt DC converter system, including a converter station that's one offshore and one onshore with its innovative converter modules and new high-tech technology system. I think to me, this is really showing that the industry is really pushing on with these types of feats. The current status, again, we placed our order in March, and we're having a real strong dialogue with GE. Had a fantastic Meet the Buyer session yesterday. They're really engaged, and I'm really positive in what they can offer out of that UK Stafford base. So just to give an insight into the sort of electrical related events and some of the other scopes of work, there's going to be some civil work, site related events on the onshore convert. And one of the great things that happened yesterday was the tier 2 contractor Kia was profiled by GE. So, that visibility of the tier 2 contractors is something I really want to passionately get behind, because if the tier 2s are visible, then the tier 3s know how to trade. And that, that's something that I think is really important. Get in touch with the people who are going to be placing the orders. So there's a lot of associated goods and support services and some further site-related events and some other marine transport services. And like I say, that's relatively imminent at Q3, Q4 2021. So again, I can't impress enough, get engaged with GE and hopefully get pre-qualified. So when it comes to Prysmian are an Italian contractor, so let's hope they are crying over the weekend. They're going to be providing the 320 kilovolt HVDC export cable, fiber optic communication cable. And to me, I think this is, a real feat to be laying a cable that sort of length. And, we hope that we're in trusted hands with Prysmian. And they've got a new vessel that's going to be online for it. It's the Leonardo da Vinci. So let's hope they can paint a good picture with that one. The current status is that, again, we placed our orders in March. So you can imagine really, March was a really busy month for us, where we really engaged with all those tier one contractors. So if I'm being, frankly honest, and I do like to be, is I think the scopes of work relating to Prismium, I won't say are limited, but they're certainly reduced in comparison to the other scopes of work. But that being said, I still, expect that Prismium, of what I've spoken to them, they're very much engaged in the scopes of work within the site related and good support services. They're very much, eager to listen to people and see what they have to offer. And the time frame is a little bit more expansive on this, so it runs for, say, 2 years of procurement activity on and off. 2021 to 2023. So what are the next steps for Sophia as a project? Well, myself, I just come online, said only 2.5 months ago, and obviously I had to really get behind, what it means. And obviously Tom has got the same sort of documents with me, with BASE, the government, and we're really passionate of our supply chain plan, delivering on those main 3 pillars of skills, innovation, and competition. So when it comes to skills with people, we want skilled jobs. We want to support local communities, tackle any skill gaps that may arise, and champion the allocation of apprenticeships. From an innovation perspective, I think this is something that the North East can really get behind, harness, and offer the offshore wind sector as an industry. I want to be performing some really worthwhile workshops. I really want to engage with our tier one contractors to maximise what they're doing on the job, and also liaise with the likes of RTC, Energy Coast, NOF, universities, and other pivotal organisations that really bring this to the fold. When it comes to, say, competition, I want to do all I can. I think we've really stipulated that we want the engagement to be really maximised when it comes with our tier one contractors, talking to local businesses, national businesses, and really being open to seeing what these people offer. Have some workshops to break down barriers, if there are any, for these supplier entrants, and also promote it really well through the portal. But I think, one of the key things that I really want to try and impress is these Meet the Buyer events. We've had 2 so far. The engagement to them has been fantastic. And that's hopefully I get a good one today with Prismium. So as I just said, the Meet the Buyer events have been happening this week. So episode 1 was Van Ord on the 6th. We actually got over 500 delegates. Episode 2, GE got over 250 yesterday, and I think today we'll probably be sneaking just over 200. So I think for each scope of work, it's a fantastic sign up, really. And Siemens will have their Meet the Buyer next year when their lead-in time. There's no point having it now when the turbines are done much further down the line. So have you registered on our portal? So if you're a supplier, we really feel that it improves the visibility both upwards and downwards within the supply chain. And we've created this portal whereby you can register your interest, state your company credentials and disciplines of work, provide case studies for any notable past or ongoing projects that you're involved with or have been, and display your company contact details, and finally receive updates against any ITTs on Sophia. So I really want to maximise, tier one contractors announcing that they're going out for ITTs. You obviously need to pre-qualify and follow their procurement process, but we want the portal to be the eyes and ears of Sophia. And all tier one contractors have full visibility of the portal and have agreed to utilise the platform. And obviously below there is just how you can register. So why do I think that the portal benefits? I think it enhances the engagement of new entrants on the project. It allows us to hopefully deliver on our sector deal. It widens the competition for the procurement tendering for tier ones. For tier twos, it provides a platform for medium-sized businesses to showcase the credentials. And I think for tier threes, if the work's cascading down in the right direction, we'll create a very joined up procurement activity on Sophia. And then hopefully, the positive outcome is the local businesses, breed work from that. So just what are the events that we have coming up? Obviously, I've talked about the Meet the Buyers, but straight after that, in July and August, we're going to have one-to-one meetups with the tier one and tier two contractors. So basically, the lucky or the best entrants that give the best sort of reasons for having a one-to-one meetup will have direct discussions with our tier one contractors, which I think really should be a kickstart into hopefully them types of businesses providing services and goods on the Sophia project. We've got a high level intro with SGRE Siemens. It'll only be high level, it won't be a full Meet the Buyer engagement. In autumn 2021, there's going to be a workshop, which is the supply chain and breaking down barriers with Van Ord. So I think what we basically want to try and do is if there's anything we can actually do to make people more viable and engaging, we want to try and make that happen. We're going to have hopefully an innovation workshop. It's not quite set up yet, but I really want it to be non-virtual. I think, you know, that sort of direct connection with people can really, you know, stimulate, you know, the innovation ideas. And finally, as I'd said, in quarter 2, 2022, we'll have a Meet the Buyer event with Siemens. So in summary, you know, I think the engagement between developers and the supply chain companies does need to improve. I feel as if I'm doing my bit, and I think Tom's doing the same. But, you know, we at RWE and the Sophia team are really committed to make this happen. I think Sophia intends to try and maximise the opportunity and lower, you know, in the lower tier entrants, especially in the Northeast and the UK, and hopefully just to get involved in the project. Deliver against the 3, you know, main driving principles, which is promote, you know, the levels of competition and local and national supply chain, champion new innovative ideas, and also ensure that local communities feel involved, get skilled jobs, you know, and also finally, you know, deliver on apprenticeships. I think, you know, the lifeblood of offshore wind, yes, it's been going for 15 years, but it'll have to go for a lot longer. And we need people that are a lot younger than me to get involved in this. So I think all the above is done, you know, by, you know, overseeing and supporting our tier 1 contractors, ensure that they engage with local and national supply chain, work with local bodies such as NOF, Energy Coast, RTC today, universities, and just really hope to, like, you know, maximise the amount of involvement. And I think finally, you know, it isn't all just about us, you know, local and national firms, they need to be able to, you know, offer goods and services that are technically sound, commercially viable as well. And I think if we can bring all that together, I think we're really going to make the Northeast flourish through projects like Sophia and Dogger Bank alike. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks for that, Graham. Great insight into Sophia offshore wind farm, and clearly a passion for local content to the Northeast and the UK. Our next speaker is Tom Nightingale of Equinor. Tom's going to give us an insight into the Dogger Bank offshore wind project. So over to you, Tom.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name's Tom Nightingale, and my role is Northeast Stakeholder Manager with Equinor. I'm based in Newcastle, and I just joined Equinor in April after working for 18 years in the supply chain for companies like Technip FMC and Baker Hughes on the north of the Tyne, and also Deep Ocean in Darlington and JDR Cables in Hartlepool as well, which is where I first had exposure to offshore wind after starting my career in oil and gas. I am a member of the Northeast Board of the Chartered Institute of Marketing, and I also recently became a board member for NOF and work closely with Energy Coast as well, who you heard about from Graham. And my role is to work with industry, academia and the supply chain, very similar to Graham, to promote the role of the wind farm, but also offshore wind in the region. So I'm going to talk about Dogger Bank. I'll give an introduction to the project, how we're supporting the UK's green industrial revolution. I'll talk a bit around innovation and supply chain, operations of the wind farm, which is where Equinor will lead on this project because it's a joint venture with our partners. And then I'll talk a bit about recruitment skills and community engagement. So first of all, Dogger Bank. Before you heard Graham talk all about it, if you'd heard of it before then, it might have been because you enjoy listening to the shipping forecasts. It's a big area of sandbank of 130 kilometres from the coast of northeast England, and it used to be a marshland that connected the UK to mainland Europe. But soon it's going to be transformed into the world's largest offshore wind farm, and it will produce 3.6 gigawatts of electricity, which is the equivalent of the amount of power required for 5 million homes, or about 5% of total UK demand. We're working with partners SSE, and ENI. So we're a partner 40% with SSE on the first 2 phases and ENI 20%. And currently for Dogger Bank C, the 3rd phase, we're partners 50% with SSE. So SSE are leading on the construction of the wind farm, and then we'll take over as the operator for the lifetime of the wind farm. We have some big fans for our wind farm. So Mr. Johnson's one of them. He likes to visit the Northeast and talk a lot about projects like Dogger Bank and Sophia. And one of the reasons is because we're helping to support the UK's green industrial revolution and the 10-point plan. And we're doing that by advancing offshore wind and green growth. This will be the world's largest offshore wind farm and is also supporting job creation and skills. There's a huge amount of innovation going on. You heard a lot about that from Graham, but between the 2 wind farms, these are some actual first technologies for the UK. So things like using HVDC to connect the wind farms to shore and into the grid, and also 14 megawatt turbines. In terms of green finance, this was the world's largest offshore wind project financing ever for phases A and B. And before the end of this year, we'll be completing the financing for Dogger Bank C as well. And we really believe that we're supporting the levelling up agenda and investing in coastal communities. For example, South Tyneside, where our operation and maintenance base will be. And this project is also the anchor project for GE's inward investment on Teesside. And they announced that they're going to build a new blade manufacturing facility. And that's off the back of the orders that we've placed with them for Dogger Bank. So talking about the blades, each one is 107 metres long. And if you've ever seen the Angel of the North, they're nothing in comparison to just one of our blades. And if you think that each turbine includes 3 of these, the actual area that they cover when they spin is the equivalent to 4 football fields. The project will be out on the Dogger Bank sandbank next to the Sophia project as well. And it will cover a huge amount of the seabed. Between the 3 projects, each project is 1.2 gigawatts. The project overall covers an area the size of Greater London. So we really are taking up a huge amount of the seabed, and this is going to be really important from an operations and maintenance perspective, because we need to be really efficient in how we approach that, and we're looking for solutions to help us to be more efficient, especially around the use of data. When each turbine spins, one sweep will create enough power for 1 home for 2 days. So you can imagine if these turbines are continuously spinning, we'll have 277 of them on our wind farm. The amount of electricity being created on a daily basis will be huge. So this is the area off the coast that you can see exactly where our 3 phases will be. The first 2, Dogger Bank A and B, they'll be connecting to the East Riding of Yorkshire. We obviously will, I mentioned in South Tyneside, just further up above Teesside on the map, we'll be building our O&M base at the Port of Tyne. And with Sophia project, Dogger Bank C will connect to Teesside, which is where Graham was yesterday, having a nice day out with the Mayor Ben Houchen. In terms of innovation, we will be using the world's most powerful turbines certified to date, and we'll be using innovative foundation designs as well. We'll be using world-leading installation vessels. One of our contractors has kindly agreed to build a new vessel capable of transporting these blades. The first ever HVDC connected wind farm in the UK as well, and our offshore substation for the HVDC will also be the world's first unmanned HVDC offshore substation. And like I mentioned before, Dogger Bank will also be a flagship for digitalisation. And you heard me talk about the size of the turbines already. You can see there a nice picture of what used to be called Big Ben, but looks like Little Ben now, next to one of our turbines. So the scale and size of this wind farm is huge. Each turbine will be connected via array cables to the offshore converter platform, and then it will be transformed to DC and transported along an export cable all the way back to shore, where it will then be converted back and it will join the national grid, where it will power homes, businesses, and also provide power for things like electric cars with batteries, hopefully manufactured in the northeast of England as well. Some of the supply chain we're working with is LM Wind Power, which is part of GE. Our marshalling port will be Seaton Port in North East England as well, where all the components will come together, and Yandino will transport our blades offshore. We'll be working with Smulders and SIF. There was a nice announcement for Smulders on some more investment in North East England yesterday, and we're working with Smulders on our foundations, and they'll be transported and installed by OHT. A company called Deme is going to be installing our array cables, and those are manufactured by Hellenic Cables. And our converter station, offshore converter platform, is designed by Able and will be installed in terms of the foundation by Saipem. We're working with NKT for the export cable and Hitachi ABB for the HVDC systems. And a company called Jones Brothers will be doing all of the groundwork. So they're already working in East Riding of Yorkshire, and yesterday's event was for Jones Brothers work starting on Teesside. So we wanted to include these companies. We want you to also engage with them. We've placed contracts with these companies already, but there's still opportunities with them for companies in the UK and in North East England as well. Some of the things that we've been doing to engage with the supply chain is obviously working closely with GE on their new facility. We've used various UK suppliers already, and we're starting to announce more via our tier 1 suppliers. And we ran a series of Meet the Buyer events last year where we worked with Energy Coast on 10 events to meet most of those suppliers that I included on the previous slide. We work very closely with Energy Coast, actively on the different skills and innovation and industry groups within Energy Coast, and we'll be developing a series of events for our O&M phase as well, which we'll announce later in the year, hopefully. We also provide funding to the Offshore Wind Growth Partnership, and one way that that's come round to the North East of England is through the TIGOR programme, which you'll hear more of later from Graham as well. So in terms of future opportunities for the supply chain, we're going to be looking for suppliers for inspection, maintenance and repair services at our base in the Port of Tyne, marine and logistics services, training, spares, refurbishment, and also we'll be looking for support for our facility like cleaning, catering, security, etc. You can register as a supplier on Dogger Bank portal. We have a portal very similar to Sophia, and we've got a list of suppliers that we can use for different activities, and we want to actively encourage any of you to go there and register, because that's the first point of contact that we go to when we're looking for a new product or service. The project will create over 200 jobs in the Port of Tyne, and we're looking to recruit existing skills from North East England. We will be doing apprenticeships on the project as well and promoting the energy transition in terms of green growth and jobs of the future. And our Skills and Community Fund will be investing £1 million in the construction phase. We announced this recently. This will be focused around STEM education and accreditation. And we're also providing scholarships. Our scholarship fund is open right now for anybody who will be studying university from September. And you can receive £5,000 towards your university fees. So we'll be giving out 50 of those scholarships this year. We will be continuing our funding during the operations, and we'll announce more on that later. And Equinor, once we establish our base, we'll be getting involved in more community projects and volunteer opportunities, working with the Port of Tyne on many of those as well, and the local authority. And you'll hear more as well on Energy Coast to follow, but I also would actively encourage any suppliers that are really keen to get into offshore wind to talk to Energy Coast and NOF about how they can learn more about the supply chain in the region and all of the different services that NOF and Energy Coast offer, not just in the UK, but with international audiences as well. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Tom. That was a great insight into the Dogger Bank offshore wind farm and the great work Equinor are doing. Clearly, a lot of opportunities for local supply chains and engagement and job opportunities as well. So, sort of the Sophia and Dogger Bank presentation sort of conclude the insight into the sector and the next part of the this morning's session is going to be covering the great support we've got available in the region and nationally from some good support programs and some market intelligence. We're going to start with Graham Smith from ORE Catapult, and he's going to give you an overview of the broad range of services which ORE Catapult offer businesses both in the Northeast and nationally as well. So over to you, Graham.
Thank you, Alan. Good morning, everybody. So my name is Graham Smith. I'm R&D Programs Manager at the Catapult, and we've heard about some fantastic projects today. I'm going to talk today about how we as Catapult can support some of the UK and Northeast companies to participate in the success of those projects. So our mission is to accelerate the creation and growth of UK companies in the offshore renewable sector. And we have unique facilities, research and engineering capabilities. We bring together innovators, industry and academia, and we reduce cost and risk in renewable technologies. We want to grow UK economic value, and we want to enable the transition to a low carbon economy. So in financial year 1920, we had impact with supporting SMEs. We supported 235 SMEs and we supported 44 products developed. I work on our site in Blyth, and we have value of test facilities there, approximately £250 million. So TIGOR, which stands for Technology, Innovation and Green Growth for Offshore Renewables, is a supply chain investment program with total budget £3.5 million, funded by North Tyne Combined Authority, the Northeast LEP and OWGP. And it's basically targeting supply chain companies located in the Northeast to enable market entry and business growth. So there are two parts to the program. One is technology demonstration projects, which are high capital investments to provide technology and support and funding for things like robotics and autonomous systems, digital twins, next-gen O&M technologies. And we also have a business growth support program, which I'll show the three programs that comprise that later. And that's all about specialist innovation advice, market intelligence, business planning. We are planning to support at least 50 Northeast businesses. We want to create 10 products or services. We're going to leverage 2.5 million private sector investment, and we want to create or safeguard a minimum of 20 jobs plus inward investment to the region. We've got engagement from Equinor, EDF, the Northeast LEP, NTCA and OWGP. We've just finished the first round of the technology demonstration projects, and that was a funding call in which we opened registration in October last year. We opened applications for the funding in November, and we closed the call in January and notified applicants in February. We just finished contracting. We're about to kick, and projects are kicking off at the moment. In terms of detail around the projects, the four technology areas that we covered: O&M reliability, optimization and AI, smart O&M robotics, digitization and digital twins, and we had an open category which included cables, hybrid energy systems, etc. We looked into two main technology development levels, TRLs 4 to 6 and TRLs 7 to 9. And we have projects of duration 12 to 18 months in the first round, and we're about to launch a second round, which will have projects of duration 9 to 12 months. The total eligible grant for those projects is between 100k to £500,000. And in the table on the right, you can see a little bit about the weighting of how the project applications are scored. So we're interested in the company background and relevance to the calls, the innovation of the project itself, the delivery aspect of the project itself, and very importantly, the regional impact of the project. We are supporting 25% to 60% of the project cost, depending on the project type and the company size. So in the first round, we've supported 5 companies. These companies are Kinuel Energy, SMD, Transmission Dynamics, Unisys, and Trident Dynamics. We've awarded £1.7 million, And if you want to find a bit more detail on that, just follow that link and you can see the press release. In terms of business support programs, we have 3 strands to this. The first of those is Launch Academy. So we'll be Launch Academy is a business accelerator program, which is a 9-month program delivered to a cohort of 10 companies. It's generally aimed at small, young companies with the potential to scale significantly in the short term. That program will launch early next year, and I'll talk about how to register for that later. The next program is Fit for Offshore Renewables, which is a business process and sector-specific competence improvement and assessment program, which has an accreditation aspect to it. It's a 12 to 18-month program, and it's aimed at companies who have the scope to grow significantly in offshore renewables. That program is currently in delivery. Applications are closed for that, and I think you'll hear more about the success of that program as the project's complete. The third strand is OWGP's WEST program. So this stands for Wind Expert Support Toolkit, and it's a needs-focused offshore wind specific business support program, providing sector insight and information. It's a kind of intense consultancy sort of setup, which has 2 to 5 days of dedicated expert time for the companies, and is generally targeting startups, new entrants from other sectors, and existing supply chain, with the idea that it'll provide knowledge and business support for them to grow. And that's open for applications. So this is the important slide if you want to get involved. So the technology demonstration projects, we are going to launch the second funding call later this year. We have over £1 million of grant funding available. And if you register at the link below, or register your interest by sending an email to that email address, then we'll register you and we'll notify you when the call opens. The business growth programs, we have WEST, which is currently open for applications and can be reached by the same link below, which will take you to the OWGP website. And the Launch Academy, if you register at that link below, then you will also be notified when that launches. If we can provide any support that's not captured with these programs, contact me anyway, and I'll try and help if I can. So thank you very much for listening, and I'll be available for questions later on the booth. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for that good insight into the good work which the ORE Catapult do, Graham. Me at RDC, working with Renewable Consultant Group, we're fortunate to be involved on the West Antigua programs, and we've engaged with a number of companies delivering support. Some of the companies are new entrants to the sector. They aren't involved, so it doesn't matter. I would encourage anyone who is interested or wants to find out more to visit your stands today, or maybe drop you a line, share their information with you. It is a good opportunity for companies to find out, what they could actually support in the sector. And I think when we've seen the map of the infrastructure, you don't just think about wind turbines, you think about the whole infrastructure and, parts which could go into it, the vast array of parts. So that's great. A good example, RDC are working with Renewable Consultant Group is Turnmill Engineering based in Washington. They're a small SME, and they're doing a lot in automotive, but they're looking at opportunities to migrate into offshore wind. So, that gives you an idea of the types of companies we could engage with. But by all means, speak to our colleagues at ORE Catapult. They'll give you a good overview. And that leads us on to our next speaker, who's Paul Livingston. He's going to be representing Northern Energy Course today again. I know Northern Energy Course very well, and they do some great stuff too with companies both in the Northeast and out of region. They run a number of events, but I'll not steal Paul's thunder. He'll give you an insight into Northern Energy Course. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Alan. So good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Livingston, as stated, Head of Business Development with NOF. I've been with NOF for just over 11 years. My presentation this morning will focus on NOF and Energy Coast activity in offshore wind and the support via engagement with us. NOF are a not-for-profit membership body and been trading for over 30 years. We take a proactive approach to supporting our members and partners who operate across the energy supply chain with a focus on business development, marketing and procurement support. It's fair to say the majority of our activity is offshore energy and the power sectors, but we also look to identify opportunities and educate our members on future growth markets such as hydrogen, carbon capture and storage, looking at the energy transition piece. With networking and promotion of collaboration at the core of our activity, we help to make valuable connections between businesses in the global energy sector and work to put companies of all sizes in touch with the best and most innovative supply chain businesses in the UK. If you look at our journey, so like I say, set up in 1988 as the Northern Offshore Federation, mainly focusing on oil and gas. Then in 2000, we made the move into offshore renewables with a strong international focus. We've always looked internationally for opportunities for our members. 2006, the business incorporated a new strategy, taking membership national, not just northeast of England, but also a big focus on offshore wind and nuclear. Really sort of went from a trade body to a business development focused membership organisation. And Subsea Northeast was set up. In 2011, we launched Energy Coast, which was the offshore wind cluster set up for the northeast of England. That was a group of member companies come together with NOF and set that up. 2012, the organisation became financially independent, no need for public sector support. We are totally self-sufficient, 2 income streams into the business, but we are not for profit, as I've said. We rebranded in 2019 and, it changes to embrace consultancy contracts. And again, we reconstituted Energy Coast in line with the UK offshore wind sector deal, where there were 8 UK clusters to be formed. Energy Coast already existed, so we carried on that mantle. It's fair to say that membership is still on the increase. We're getting a lot of activity now from companies who want to join NOF and enter in that offshore wind supply chain. That is the key message coming out at the moment from members and non-members looking to join. Key sectors for our organisation and our members are offshore renewables, as I've said, oil and gas, and again focusing on opportunities that will arise from energy transition, including carbon capture and storage, hydrogen and nuclear. With around 400 organisations within our network, our membership is typically made up of members, supply chain companies operating in the energy sector at all tiers, strategic partners who are the operators, developers and tier 1 contractors, global partners who are like-minded trade bodies based in key export markets where collaboration opportunities may exist for our members. We also have consultancy partners, of which RCG and Max is on the call this morning. These are large industry analysts and information providers and intelligence providers. We also have UK partners, which are generally other trade bodies and membership bodies based in the UK. So what do we offer? What do we do for our members? What's the driver? So if you look at business development, we would engage with our members on future business plans, identify opportunities in the UK and around the world, and keep you up to date with the latest developments in the energy sector. Our introduction service is really popular. Accessed every day by numerous members. We facilitate, valuable introductions every day, strategic between NOF members and our energy sector partners, as well as our extended network of non-members and other companies. If you look at our events, well known for our events, quality events, face-to-face, they've been online. We've managed to shift our quality events online during the pandemic. And we are delivering quality events. If you look, we organise small roundtable meetings to high-profile energy sector conferences, organise targeted events that provide access to major energy companies and the opportunities, obviously, to showcase your products and services. Some offshore event activity we're delivering at the moment, you've already heard from RWE on the Sophia project. So through 2021, RWE, Sophia and its T1 contract is assisted by ourselves and Energy Coast. We'll hold a number of events and highlight opportunities for the supply chain to engage with the project. We're also running along an online series of events to help matchmake UK suppliers with T1 contracting opportunities also. To increase visibility of suppliers and to grow contracting opportunities as the project progresses, Sophia, as you've heard, last year launched an open source supply portal on its website with a huge number of entries. Please keep an eye on the portal and the LinkedIn activity from NOF because we are constantly promoting that. If you're not on there, make sure you get on there. It's the same with Equinor and Dogger Bank. Make sure you're on that supply chain portal. We will be supporting Equinor and Tom with future supply chain events linked to the Dogger Bank project moving forward. It's not easy for me to say, excuse, just take a drink. Date for the diary as well. We also organise our Offshore Wind Northeast annual conference and exhibition. Was virtual last year. This year we are going live. This takes place, as a live in-person event on the 1st and 2nd of December. If you'd like further details, please come and talk to me on the virtual stand. Basically, we bring the whole industry together at the event and provide project updates, networking opportunities, exhibition opportunities, and details of business opportunities. So we move on to our activity within offshore wind. Many members have already successfully capitalised from the huge potential offered through diversifying into offshore wind or exporting their products and services. We did launch in November last year the NOF Offshore Wind Project Database. This was in order to ensure our members have access to critical projects data and insight into who the key players are in the industry, where the forecasted market and supply chain spend will be over the next 5 years. And we did, like I said, we launched that in November last year, and we are getting a lot of take up on that. With access to over 950 projects globally, with daily news updates, highlighting contract awards and supply chain activity, plus project status, developer, tier 1 contractor information, package of work they're responsible for. It's a fantastic digital support platform to help focus your business development activity and forecasting. Subscribers also have access to quarterly live updates, detailing current and future activity, plus access to an annual industry report focusing on all sector activity. We've actually just released that report. And subscribers will get a copy of that. So some key findings within that report. We've also organised a number of project-focused networking and supply chain engagement events, as I've said, RWE and Dogger Bank, other offshore wind farm developers and tier 1 contractors as well, and we'll continue to do this in the future. A sample of just some of the clients and contractors we work with listed here and on the next slide as your developers. I'm sure you recognise a lot of them. Contractors that we've also worked with on supply chain engagement. It isn't just northeast of England wind farms. We're looking further afield for opportunities for our members. Okay, if we look at Energy Coast, which is the northeast of England's offshore wind cluster. Energy Coast was established by NOF in 2011, as I've stated on a previous slide, and NOF provides all support to the cluster. The cluster, as I've mentioned, was reconstituted following the UK offshore wind sector deal in 2019. It's made up of 30 key regional businesses and stakeholder organisations involved in offshore wind. The group works to showcase the vast supply chain capabilities in the sector within North East England, promote the region as a key hub for servicing both the UK and international offshore wind markets, and address the themes arising from the sector deal announced in early 2019. The cluster is made up of developers, ports, supply chain, skills and academia, innovation and research organisations, and of course the 2 local enterprise partnerships are heavily involved. No stone unturned. Each Energy Coast participant acts as a regional ambassador for offshore wind and is committed to ensuring the cluster is a strong voice to represent the supply chain and this vibrant industry, which is huge economic benefit for the northeast of England. I'm sure you've all seen the recent announcements with regards to the wind sector. The northeast of England region has been active in the offshore wind sector since the inception of the industry. The first UK offshore wind farm was built in 2000, and subsequently the first successfully decommissioned in the UK is located off the coast of Blyth, Northumberland. And to date, supply chain companies from within the region's cluster have been involved in the vast majority of offshore wind farms globally. The cluster undertook a North East England supply chain mapping project last year with the key findings detailed on the slide. The cluster have also launched a new website, and the new online supply chain directory will be going live in the coming months. So basically any company based in the northeast of England will be able to have a listing on this directory, which will give them the visibility to developers and contractors looking to source products and services from the northeast of England. So if you'd like further details on that, please again visit the Energy Coast virtual stand. If any questions on Energy Coast, Jess Wright is lead coordinator, but I am happy to take any questions today on the Energy Coast stand, or my colleague Caroline Lofthouse, Head of Stakeholder Engagement at NOF. This slide details all the companies and organisation involved. So I mentioned 30 odd companies plus academia and the 2 local enterprise partnerships, developers, T1 contractors. So we've got a good representation there of companies operating at all different levels of supply chain. So you recognise a few of those. That brings me to the end of the presentation. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, as I've said, feel free to visit the NOF virtual exhibition stand during the course of today's event. Happy to speak to you and engage with you online. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. That was a great overview of the services both NOF and Energy Codes do offer, and great that you condensed it in 10 minutes as well, which is good.
Try my best, Alan. Try my best.
For me, I would encourage people who are interested definitely to speak to Paul and his colleagues, but also attend the Offshore Wind Northeast Conference. I went to the inaugural one, which was 2 years back in Newcastle, and it was a great exhibition. It was disappointing that last year it had to go virtual. This year it's going to be live again. So I'm looking forward to that, Paul, and thanks for today.
Not a problem, Alan. Thank you.
Okay. This brings us on to our last but by no means least speaker, which is Max Clark of the Renewable Consultant Group, RDC North. I'm fortunate to be working with Max and his colleagues, as I mentioned, delivering on the Offshore Wind Growth Partnership Programme. And some of the great work which Max and the team have been doing alongside RDC North has been great for some of the beneficiary organisations, giving them an insight into potential opportunities, matching their products and services to where they could actually sit in the offshore wind sector, and also knowledge on potential local opportunities in the very near future. So over to you, Max.
Great, thanks very much, Alan. Hi everyone, my name's Maxwell Clark. I'm a Senior Associate at the Renewables Consulting Group. I've been with RCG for about 1.5 years, and yeah, thank you for the lovely introduction, Alan. I'll be presenting on some of the opportunities the offshore wind sector can provide for SMEs, particularly in the UK, but also abroad, and looking at some of the trends in the offshore wind that need to be considered when you're looking at the contracting process. So I'll just give a brief overview of the services RCG provides, just to fill you in on how we could help your business further from any other work beyond this presentation. RCG is a specialist expert advisory company operating in the renewable energy sector. We work mostly in offshore wind, but also cover the onshore wind, solar power, and emerging technology areas, so like hydrogen technology and battery storage. We deliver technical due diligence, health and safety advisory services, as well as market intelligence and go-to-market studies as well. As Alan mentioned, we've supported RTC North as part of the OSWGP West programme, helping SMEs in the Northeast, around the UK, sorry, understand the offshore wind sector and whether it's an appropriate investment opportunity for them. And as Paul also mentioned, we provide data services and database services for NOF, as well as providing the information in their offshore wind market reports that they release to subscribers of their offshore wind database. We're very excited just this week as well to announce that we've been acquired by ERM, the world's largest sustainability consultancy, and that's really going to help us progress these services more, utilising ERM's global resources to enhance our own service offering. And then there's just an overview of more of the services we offer in a bit more detail if you want to take a look later for any more specific offerings. But enough about that. I'll dive into the offshore wind sector and get past our office locations. Unfortunately, it appears the map isn't showing here. Maybe when Alan shares the presentation at the end, we can share around the slide showing the map. There must be a issue with the screen sharing, but what I wanted to show there was global overview of where the offshore wind sector is split. It's at the moment focused on Europe as the birthplace of the sector, but as you can see from the top 15 offshore wind markets in Q1 of 2021, there's a lot of APAC countries that are up there, as well as the USA. Some of these APAC countries are very long-term prospects, as well as the likes of Brazil and maybe Sweden. So you might see massive portfolios, but the reality of near-term development is a little less secure. But the reason I wanted to show a global overview is that whilst obviously this workshop is more for companies in the northeast of England, really wanted to stress how globally integrated the offshore wind supply chain is. In the UK, projects can have parts supplied from countries like Indonesia or South Korea, but just in the same way, projects in Taiwan might need components that have come from come from the UK or other European markets. And RCG's done a lot of work with clients in the UK to explore how they can export their services. So it is really useful to be aware of the opportunities beyond the UK across global markets, not just European ones. So another key aspect of offshore wind is the length of the development process. I think something a lot of people get hung up on in the offshore wind contracting and supply processes is that you see the turbines and obviously the foundations and the cables, and you think, well, those are the main packages. I don't design a turbine. I don't design a foundation. How can I get involved in offshore wind? But there are so many other opportunities for suppliers, especially local suppliers, to deliver bespoke services. So those key work packages, the main components, are only really engineered and contracted later in the development life cycle. You can see from this chart that the development of a project at the moment takes approximately 10 years. So, and the bulk of that is early stage surveying and site preparation works, where obviously that's a completely different array of services that are required. And in that, you need things like companies that can do the surveying, you need ornithological surveys, you need geophysical surveys, wind measurement, all sorts of other things. And that's not to forget all the onshore work that needs to go in. So port preparation works, you need to survey the onshore cable route, and that can be environmental surveys looking at sort of newt populations in a field where the cable's going to go through. So it's a really diverse array of services, and there's definitely a lot of room for local companies to get involved in ways that they might not have appreciated in the offshore wind sector. And key to getting involved in some of these services is the early engagement with the developers and other suppliers. So when you look at things like the offshore wind leasing in the UK, recently there was announced that there was a record leasing for companies like BP, RWE, GIG, Total and Cobra in the UK. And that was announced in January of this year. Those projects are similar to this timeline, expected to come online around 2029. So as soon as you're aware that, say, BP and EnBW have won a lease, you want to be really getting involved in their procurement process to get on their radar if you deliver surveying work or equipment for surveying work as well. And just moving on slightly, I'm just conscious of time, obviously, Alan. I know we might be running a little bit late here, but something else I really want to stress is, and something that me and Alan have been talking through a lot of people on the West programme, is the strength of the investment case in offshore wind. So we can see that there was a real spike in investment in 2020, and that has continued into 2021. 2020 was actually the year with the largest amount of investment in offshore wind projects globally by the capacity financed. And that investment, as we can see from the chart there, is still focused heavily in Europe. So the investment case for offshore wind in Europe really is solid. And with over 230 gigawatts of capacity expected to be operational by 2030, we can only expect that level of investment to continue for the next 10 years and beyond that as well. So looking more at the trends that will actually affect local suppliers, one of the key trends would be localization. A lot of countries around Europe, well, a lot leading offshore wind markets around Europe are now looking at local content requirements to support their offshore wind ambitions. Just late yesterday, the UK government announced the local content process behind the next allocation round for offshore wind projects, the AR4 contract for difference round. It was so late in the day that unfortunately I haven't had a chance to digest it and tell you what's involved in it, but it'll be a very key document to understand the procurement process that project developers applying for CFDs in the next round are going to have to go through, whether there's a percentage of local content they have to meet or what other steps they have to follow to secure investment in a local supply chain. Understanding local content requirements really is key to help SMEs identify the areas in which they can really target projects. So it's a real, it does open a lot of opportunities for SMEs, because offshore wind projects may focus on procurement at the lower levels of the supply chain to really boost the local content in their projects. If you're building a massive site where you need to supply turbines from Germany or foundations from Spain, that's used up a massive chunk of the percentage of procurement you're doing on that site, and that takes away from the local content. So if you can procure all of your other services locally, that will balance out the amount of content you have. So if you really dive into what the local content requirements are in each market, that can help you identify where you can apply your services, but also help you look for partners which you can join up with to help them deliver a service. So if there is an internationally based supplier, such as Navantia doing foundations in Spain, or Vestas who make their turbines in Denmark, if you have a component that you think corresponds to that technology, you can reach out to them and say, we can help you bring down the percentage of foreign content so you can boost your local content. And that will be really favorable to them. That will help them secure work on future projects as well. This local content requirements are more focused towards long-term projects. So if your service is more involved with a major component, that might be more of a prospect towards the end of the 2020s. But it can also affect the surveying as well. As I said, it's a good opportunity for projects to really boost their local content by securing contracts for some of these smaller services locally. And local content in, sorry, let me just stop that. Local content in the UK isn't the only opportunity for SMEs, but you can also actually make use of local content requirements elsewhere. So if you are looking at the Norwegian market, but you know you don't have a presence there, that's again an opportunity for you to reach out to a Norwegian partner who can utilize their experience in Norway to satisfy local content requirements, but might need your expertise in a certain service to help them with their service offering for offshore wind in that market. The other key trend we've seen a lot at the moment, and especially in the work me and Alan have done on the WEST programme, is digitalisation and automation. I think it goes without saying that this is a key trend in a lot of industries at the moment, both to reduce the health and safety risk of having contractors on site and also reduce costs as well. Digitalisation is also inherently linked to local content. If you're not having to procure a massive team from another country to deliver their bespoke services, and you can have one guy from a UK company doing drone services, then that's massively switched the balance of that local content in that service. But I should also stress that digitalisation is a very innovative area, and in some cases project developers might not understand the innovation that your company can provide. We've seen this quite a lot in drone technology, where because drones themselves are an emerging technology in offshore wind, some contractors might not be aware of the capability they can offer. So if you can present your business case and say, we have this really innovative tool, this really innovative technology we want to present to you, then they'll be more than happy to explore the opportunities there. And again, partnering with a larger company, whether they're themselves local or international, is a really good way to boost your track record. So if you have an innovative digital technology, but you haven't really tested it in the offshore wind sector so much, you might want to partner with a larger supplier, or even it could be another small supplier in the UK. They'll help boost your track record to meet the requirements of another higher tier supplier or a developer. And so one of the key things I've mentioned across both localization and digitalization is forming partnerships. So this can really help boost your track record if you've not got much experience in offshore wind, because the partner can leverage their experience to really boost your service offering. And there's also a number of other ways you can really get involved in the contracting process. I think Paul, Graham, Tom, everyone's mentioned the use of these supply chain clusters, and they're a really good way to identify some of these partners, and not only identify partners that you can work with, but also talk to the developers and upper tier supply chain contractors. So I've got some examples of the key partners there, key trade organizations there that can facilitate those partnerships and facilitate the contracting process. But partnering with another company has more benefits than just boosting track record, but it can also help you meet certain standards or certifications. And that can also be understood by following portals and supply chain portals to contract with suppliers such as RWE or Equinor or other tier 1 suppliers. As an SME, you might be quite daunted by major certification like ISO 45001, and that might be quite an expensive step for your business. But we've found that as long as you can demonstrate that you have the systems in place or capability to meet a standard or certification of a key supplier, that will be appreciated, and they can help you make sure your product is compliant with a certain certification without necessarily meaning that you have to meet that certification yourself. So I think I'll wrap up there. Unfortunately, I'm going to be quite busy for the rest of the day on some other work. I will have my contact available in the Hoover portal, but if you have any more questions about the offshore wind industry, feel free to follow the contact details there for myself or my colleague Sebre once Alan's circulated this presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much, Max, and thanks to all of the speakers this morning. I'm conscious this session's overrun and there are other great sessions happening covering sectors, networking and the like. So from my perspective, all of the presenters, thanks very much for all your efforts, hard work. And I think we put on a good show demonstrating, you know, the opportunities in offshore wind and the support available to help companies who are actually in the sector or want to get involved in the sector. As I suggested earlier, recordings will be made available a week or so's time when we sort all of the technology out, and please make the most of today. We didn't have a time for a questions and answers session, rightly so. I wanted to get the right presentations in and the good speakers in. So please visit the stands or post the relevant questions to the people you need to speak to. Thanks very much for your attendance, and thanks to the speakers once again. Enjoy the rest of the showcase. Thank you.